Awesome. So thank you very much for coming tonight. I really, really appreciate it. This is one of the full classes. I love this class because a lot of people have questions about this particular subject. You know, one of the things that we do as chiropractors is that most people don't realize that we are here to educate you on how to take care of yourself. Okay, I can adjust you. Some of you are patients, some of you are guests. For those of you who are guests, thank you very much for coming. One of the things that I encourage is that people just learn how to take care of themselves. Start making changes. Start listening to what their body is telling them, because ultimately, we all have challenges in our life, and one of the things that I approach life with is I appreciate those challenges, and I take those challenges so it helps me to address things to build strength and help to see those challenges in others and help build your strength. Because it's ultimately, most people come in for some sort of reason or are referred here because they have a problem. I have many kids that I adjust that are not here because they have aches or pains. I have many people that come in to get checked because they understand the importance of making sure the nervous system functions properly and how the body is supposed to be going in the right direction. Hey, Jess. The sign-in sheet is right there, hon. So ultimately, this workshop is for you. I am here. We're going to spend 30 minutes of time, and I thank you for being here because really, honestly, you're sacrificing 30 minutes of your time to be here, but ultimately, hopefully, you're open-minded enough that you'll learn something as you go from here. My hope is that when you are done, you'll have information or some questions, and if you have those questions, write them down. You can always email askthedoctor@infinitehealth.biz and ask me questions if you don't want to do it here. If you want to set up time, we can have discussions about that. We do a lot of nutritional consults too. That's my background. So ultimately, I want to help you guys learn how to take care of yourselves. Having said that, we can all feel great or not feel so great. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy just because you don't feel good, okay? Health can be, you could actually be recovering from something and, or worked out and feel sore, and that's something good for your body. It's something your body needs. I was just talking with Linda before we came in about how movement is nutrition for the body. It actually helps to reduce inflammation. So we're going to be talking tonight about reducing inflammation through your diet. But don't forget that movement for your body is actually nutrition to your body. It actually feeds the body's spinal pathways and proprioceptive inputs into your body. And that's a whole nother workshop that we talk about. So please understand that those are the things that we're going to go through. Also understanding that there are a lot of the way a lot of people approach it is through it's just genetic. I can't change it. That's not necessarily true. Okay, because genes are there's a lot of different examples you can use. I use the example of a library. Okay, genes are like a library. Genes are like a library that tells our bodies how we should act, what we should do. However, when you go into the library, there's like over 60,000 genes in our human genome. Okay, you go into a library and you have over 60,000 books. Who reads every book? Right? Come on, raise your hand. I know somebody does it. But the thing is, you don't read every book. You go, you pick books, you take that book, you take the knowledge from that book, and hopefully you'll use it and you'll apply it with wisdom. Okay, our body does the same thing. We're exposed to certain things in our lives that we trigger certain genes or books that are actually then starting to be used. But it doesn't necessarily mean just because it runs in your family that you're going to have it too. Okay? Because there are environmental factors that come into play. So having said that, that's a whole other workshop that I do called epigenetics. But I want you to understand that this here is to help you understand how you can take small steps and do small things that as you change them, maybe you'll start feeling better. Okay? Maybe you'll do those things. Maybe you'll take something out of your diet. Maybe you'll put something into your diet. Who knows? Okay, so having said that, let's start with this workshop. And I don't think this is on, so I'm going to put that on. But that is definitely working. There we go. As it comes up. So every day I wake up, I pick up this coffee. It was given to me by Marie, and it has pictures of my family on it. And on the back, it says, start each day with grateful heart. What better way to start your day? That helps. Right. It's because you read it when you right. You know, you read it, right? But it does. It makes it. It sets off a different chemical complex in your body. We talked a little bit about psychoneuroimmunology last week, and it definitely helps to release chemicals that help to reduce inflammation. So positive thought is a powerful tool. So does that look focused to you guys? Yes? Okay. So inflammation. First, we have to understand what inflammation is. Inflammation is not necessarily a bad thing, okay, initially. Okay, when we have an injury, okay, the first response to the injury is inflammation. There's a reason for that. So if you break a leg, severe inflammation, right? But it's there to keep the bones from moving out of place. Okay, so it's called the healing crisis. The first 72 hours or so, inflammation is there for a reason. Now, we do ice things to help reduce inflammation, to get rid of pain, but the pain is there for a reason too. It's there to remind you, hey, maybe I did something wrong. Okay, so the thing is, but we are stubborn and we are adamant that we're going to keep pushing through things. So we want to make sure that that we're feeling better, right? But it is the body's self-protection mechanism, and it's part of our innate immunity. So what I was just talking about is a natural reaction of the body. We are born with, and it helps us to adapt to things. Adaptation is one of the signs of life. Okay, you need to be able to adapt to things. I'll move in a second, Earl, so you can read it. But adaptation is a really, really important thing in our life, because if our bodies are not adapting to the changes around us properly, with all the neurological input that comes in through our body, we are going to eventually wither away. You need to be able to adapt and move to those things. So those are important things that we're looking at. It's a localized protective response like I talked about, and innate immunity is generally non-specific, while adaptive immunity is specific to one pathogen. So innate immunity is just a general response, okay? But it is the way we heal from above down, inside out, okay? Our bodies heal the way we heal. And we do a workshop on innate intelligence also, so that goes from there. Well, adaptive is specifically adapting to a specific pathogen. So, for example, we get a virus, our body learns how to fight it, and it's adapting to that. Okay, when you get a virus and you fight it naturally, you get a lifelong. You usually get a lifelong immunity to it. Okay, whereas if you do it artificially through something like a vaccination, what happens is you have to get booster shots because it's a different response. Okay, so those are the things that we look at. Acute inflammation starts rapidly. This is that healing. It quickly becomes severe. Signs and symptoms are only present for a few days, but in some cases may persist for a few weeks. That's when it starts to become chronic. This means long-term inflammation, which can last for several months and even years. Who has had something that's going on chronically for years? Right. So some of us have things like, back pain. Some of us have actually more diffuse things going on in our spines and, growth patterns, extra bone, or, some of us have arthritis that's formed over the years. It's there. I've had 3 knee surgeries. So guess what? I have chronic inflammation in my knees periodically at the end of the day. So I take care of them. But I still run. I still do things. And that's where the nutrition comes in with the movement, because the movement helps to feed those areas and helps to pump the fluids in and out and helps to get the body moving properly. Okay, so it's important that you move. However, within pain tolerance, obviously. Failure to eliminate what was causing an acute inflammation, obviously we talked about that. maybe an autoimmune response to a self-antigen. So sometimes some people have autoimmune responses, and the autoimmune responses can be almost anything. There are people that have things like rheumatoid arthritis, asthma asthma or diabetes can be considered an autoimmune response because the body's not responding well. So you have to understand what those things are, and then there are the more severe ones, there are more severe ones that come into play, like Sjogren's syndrome or something of that nature, would includes dry eyes. It's the body's lupus. Those are all autoimmune type dysfunctions, and you can be tested for those, but they're not necessarily just because it's genetic. It could be something that happened over the years, or adaptive. A chronic irritant of low intensity that persists. So mold in the household, and if you don't know you have it, is a chronic irritant, and some people have that happen. Right, so they go into their house and they're like, and all of a sudden their house has mold in it, okay, or they have some leak that's causing it. So these are the things that we're looking at. So these are the things that I want to address. But think about this: what can inflammation cause? It can cause pain. Anybody else want to guess? Stiffness. Swelling. Is that swelling? Is that what you said? Okay. Lack of mobility, right? So those are the things pretty common stuff that people understand, right? Pretty, like, that sort of makes sense. That's what it would cause: stiffness, mobility, swelling. Well, let's take a look at some of the things that can happen here. Plaque in coronary artery disease is linked to inflammation. The scientists from Stanford University linked 25 new genetic regions to coronary artery disease. They found that people with coronary artery disease, the leading cause of death globally, are most likely to be predisposed to the disease because they have gene variants linked to inflammation. Not high cholesterol, although high cholesterol can contribute to plaque. Okay? It's inflammation. This is why it's so important that you eat properly and eat the foods that help to reduce inflammation in your body. Not only does it do that, okay, but this here, this protein that they test, C-reactive protein, is a better test for risk for heart problems than cholesterol. But most people don't test for this. Oh, you have high cholesterol. Here, take something. Our cholesterol levels naturally go up as we age. It's part of the barriers of the membranes that help. The cholesterol is part of those membranes that helps to protect those membranes. So as we get older, we need a little more of them because they're like amyloid in substance. They're like this like fatty type of tissue type of thing. Okay, foods high in sugar and saturated fat can spur inflammation. Who likes sugar? I mean, so the thing is sweets, but the thing is sugars can be hidden in many things. So years ago, one of my vices is caffeine, which is an irritant, which is an inflammatory. I only drink caffeine in this form. I don't drink a lot of sugar or drink sugar or eat sugar. A lot of it periodically. I have an urge for it, which is okay. But I stopped putting milk and sugar in my coffee a long time ago. Milk has a natural sugar in it called lactose. Okay, which people don't realize, except if you're diabetic, you might know that. And then I don't use regular, over-the-counter sugar sucrose. I sometimes will use maple syrup or raw honey from a local area because it has natural antioxidant effects and helps you to fight off antigens that are local. So those are the big things that we look at there. Also, if it's out of control, things like rheumatoid arthritis can come about, like I talked about, and it's also thought to play a role in obesity, heart disease, and cancer. So who has ever eaten something and they haven't eaten a lot, okay, maybe just a small portion of it, and all of a sudden felt bloated? Yeah, right? That's a sign of inflammation. It means that something that you eat, your body's not responding to properly. Okay, it's over-responding, maybe allergic to it, who knows? Okay, so you got to be aware of it. And you should eat not to how things taste while you eat them, although that's why most people eat, okay, but how you feel afterwards. You can still eat good foods that taste good, but if you feel like lethargic and like a slug afterwards, that means that something that you're eating, your body's not agreeing with. You should be energetic after you eat. Okay? So those are the big things that we're looking at. Chronic reactions are present in most age-related neurodegenerative disorders, so things like Alzheimer's. They're finding inflammation is huge in Alzheimer's. Huge, huge, huge. My wife was telling me about something the other day that she had read because she reads a lot on Alzheimer's. Her dad has dementia of some sort. I don't know exactly, and she was reading how there was a certain supplement, and please forgive me because I don't remember, that was better than the medications that they were giving, and it had to do with inflammation, reducing inflammation. Turmeric, yeah. So turmeric, that was it. Because turmeric is something that we carry here in the office, but turmeric now they're finding is amazing at reducing inflammation. And it's interesting, if you look at the Mediterranean or Middle Eastern type diets, they use a lot of the spices that are anti-inflammatory. You know, things like ginger. We have the oil. I can also get it in pill form. The essential oil, frankincense, turmeric, things like boswellia, curcumin. Those things are all anti-inflammatory. Those are things that you can take to help with reducing inflammation, but you can naturally cook with those things and help your body to help reduce those things. And so those are the things that we're looking at. Alzheimer's is one of those things that we look at. If you want to know the specifics on the plaque accumulation and stuff, let me know. I'll get this to you. I just want you to understand. So it's a cycle. We call this a safety pin cycle. There's always a give and take. Okay, but you know, inflammation can cause aging, and aging may cause inflammation. But in most cases, the inflammation comes first, and then the aging comes very quick. Okay, so inflammation causing foods. So let's go three. 3 P's: processed, packaged, or prepared foods. Anything that comes in a box is usually inflammatory. Why? Preservatives, salts, I mean, there's so many things, sugars, carbs, okay? You know, there's a lot of things that come in. So the thing is, it's amazing that, you know, food additives, artificial sweeteners, I mean, you name it, they're there. Hydrogenated and trans fats found in margarine. Who uses margarine anymore? Does anybody use margarine? I don't think anybody uses margarine anymore. It used to be a very big, huh? Does she really? I mean, I'd say it used to be very popular. I remember the old commercials, Parquet, butter, Parquet, you know, and it's like, it's funny because a lot of people don't use it anymore, which is good because they understand, but it's in a lot of other foods. That's why I like cooking with like coconut oils and avocado oils and things, and the olive oils are good because you're not having it in that form, okay? Meat, not wild caught fish. So what's the difference between wild caught fish and farmed fish? What they're feeding them, basically. And they're grown up, and when you're farmed, what's happening is they're very close together, so they're not getting the natural movements into their body, things like that. Same with meats. Okay, if you're going to eat meats, you want to eat more, you know, wild predatory, like, you know, things like, you know, like, well, venison, yeah, huh? Grass-fed, right, exactly, okay? I'm not telling you to go vegetarian or vegan, but, you know, plant-based diets usually tend to be less inflammatory, okay? Fried foods. This is my killer here. I love onion rings. Everywhere I go, I have to taste the onion rings. I have to. I love onion rings. I always have, you know. So that's my downfall. But I try not to order them every single time or share it with someone. So those are the things. So fried foods are definitely part of that. White sugars and sweets, including soft drinks and sweetened juices. You got to be careful with juice. Juice has a lot of sugar in it. Juice has a lot of sugar. Even if it's natural, you have to be very, very careful of it. Newer research is showing that sugar is one of the most addictive substances you can use. It is also highly inflammatory. I was reading something today about this. Do you know that the average American eats 135 pounds of sugar a year. It sounds gross, doesn't it? But think about it. Think about what you eat, what you drink, okay? And then look at the amount of teaspoons of sugar in there. And it adds up. 130. You wonder why people are like, oh, I got to stop eating sugar. No, just don't eat it every day. Or, be more reasonable with it, okay? I mean, these are the things that you have to look at. I read that and I was like, and then I started looking at it and I'm thinking, well, sugar is in a lot of different things. Like I don't eat white bread, so white bread has sugars in it. I mean, it's just, have you ever like just taken a piece of white sugar, cube a piece of a white bread and just put it on your tongue and let it dissolve? It tastes like sugar. It tastes sweet. Okay, so it's really wild. I did that one time. Synthetic sweeteners like NutraSweet, Splenda, saccharin, aspartame, amino sweet. A lot of people use this stuff because they're diabetic, and you just have to be careful because I know specifically for aspartame, it can act like a neurodegenerative like MS. It can actually mimic it sometimes. Okay, if you drink a lot of it or eat a lot of it. So you have to be careful. Iodized salt, it's interesting. Because who grew up eating iodized salt? Me. It was always, why they did that? Because of thyroid stuff. Because the iodine is and I was like, I always wondered about that. But things like sea salts, natural salts, like we use Himalayan pink salt in our house. It's very powerful. That stuff is better for you. Okay? Food additives, anything that has stabilizers. And let me ask you a question. Does any of this surprise any of you? It's pretty common sense, right? You've heard about this stuff? Okay, I mean, really, honestly, this is stuff that you look at and you say, but you have to be reminded because we don't think about these things naturally. If we look at the next portion of it, dairy products. So we were talking about the natural products in dairy is lactose. Okay, yogurt is probably one of the least causing. But it depends on what you use it with and how you use it, and if it's naturally made. Like we used to in our house. Growing up, I hated yogurt when I was a kid. Hated the way it tasted. It just But my grandmother would always make it. Like she would start a culture of it, and she'd have a big bowl in the oven because it was a warm place. She wouldn't cook it. It's warmer, and then the bacteria would multiply. She'd get it, and we'd have a whole bowl of yogurt, and it was the best yogurt you could ever make. You're making faces. You're making faces. I'm like, why is she making the face? No, oh, you're trying to read. Okay, she's moving on. But you do have to be careful with the amount of cheeses and dairy that you eat because we're the only creature on the planet that actually eats the milk or drinks the milk of another creature. Okay, not our own. So you have to be careful of that. Wheat products, obviously genetically modified and gluten stuff, gluten-containing grains, and alcohol. This is the top 12 inflammatories. You have to be aware of what they are. Alcohol is hugely inflammatory, and it's really bad for diabetics because it causes a sugar problem because it's a sugar. Alcohol is a sugar. Okay? I mean, that's the way it's the fermenting process. Everything is there. Hey, I like a good beer or a good bourbon, as good as well as the other person in this room, but I just try to. Growing up, I drank way too much of it, and the thing is, but periodically I'll have a drink here and there. So inflammation fighting foods, fatty fish, oily fish like salmon, mackerel, tuna, and sardines. Wild caught, you have to be careful of contents of mercury, things of that nature. But if you get it from the right place, it's good. Like whenever Julie will, you don't like fish, huh? Okay, it's the way it's prepared. It really is the way it's prepared. And the thing is, it's where you get it. Julie gets, my wife goes to Concord Seafood and Beef or whatever it is, downtown South Main Street. And on Sunday, they know she's coming in, and she'll always walk in and she'll get salmon from there. I don't like salmon when I go out to eat because I know it's usually not fresh caught or, fresh salmon or fresh wild salmon. She gets it from there and she makes it and it tastes amazing because it doesn't smell like fish. It's the weirdest thing. Oh, if it smells like fish, then it's not good. but it is a fish, so why wouldn't it smell like fish? You know, but the thing is, but if you do get fresh fish, it usually doesn't have a fishy smell to it. Okay, and the thing is, it also has omega-3 fatty acids, which like we have the tuna omega oil here, that's another anti-inflammatory. But you have to be careful if you're taking heart medications, things of that nature that thin your blood, because you can't have those things. Whole grains, consume most of your grains as whole grains, as opposed to refined. It helps to, they've shown that it's helped reduce levels of C-reactive protein. So I'm not a big grain guy, but this is for those of you that I like rice, and I like bulgur. It's cracked wheat, the cracked wheat rice, and quinoa. I actually have, my daughter came home from college and she made an avocado quinoa salad that absolutely tasted amazing. And I was like, I would have never thought I would have eaten something like that. But you have to experiment with those types of foods and figure out which ones you like. And there are going to be things that you don't like. Okay, so if you don't like fish, make sure that you're eating wild game. That's not going to happen, huh? Because wild game has higher omega-3 fatty acids. Then you want grass-fed. Okay, because grass-fed will again have higher omega-3 fatty acids. So those are the things that you're looking at. Dark leaf, huh? You can take we should all be taking omega-3 fatty acids anyway. We don't get enough of it in our diet. It's very rare that someone gets enough of it in our diet. There's two things that you should be taking that we lack immensely in our diets: probiotics and omega-3 fatty acids. And which is, yeah, you're laughing. It's true. Dark leafy greens are what happens is protecting the body from pro-inflammatory molecules. So dark green vegetables such as spinach, kale, broccoli, and collard greens. You have to be careful of spinach and some of the dark greens if you have hematochromatosis, which is too much iron in your blood. Okay, there are certain things and some thyroid stuff that you have to be careful. But dark leafy greens in general will help to be anti-inflammatory. And nuts. Certain nuts are rich in fiber, calcium, and vitamin E, and omega-3 fats. So that's where you can get them too. Walnuts, which are huge in walnuts and pistachios, which are huge in alpha-linoleic acids, but they're huge in Mediterranean diets also. So the thing is, and one of the things that is really sweet. Who likes baklava? True baklava, okay, is usually made with honey. Is made with honey and certain nuts and phyllo dough, and if it's made with fresh ingredients, it's really not super bad, but it is very sweet. So you have to be careful. You're not supposed to eat a lot. Okay. So these alpha-linoleic diets are important. Alpha-linoleic acids are important in your diet, and they come from nuts along with fish, leafy greens, and whole grains. Peppers, colorful vegetables. So if you're having a salad, add peppers and tomatoes. The nightshade vegetables, you just have to be careful. There are some people that have problems with nightshade vegetables. But there was a study done in 2012 in Iran that juicy red tomatoes, specifically rich in lycopene, which has been shown to reduce inflammation in the lungs and throughout the body. Who knew? I mean, those are the things that, hot pepper, my wife. So who likes hot food? Okay, so there's a cup, spicy hot. Okay. In my house, we don't have a black pepper shaker. We have a cayenne pepper shaker. Okay, my wife puts cayenne pepper on everything. And it's so funny. She'll put it on there and she'll say, "Oh, do you want to finish this?" And I'll taste it. And I like spicy, but not on everything. And I'm like, you put cayenne pepper on it. I can't eat this. Because there's certain foods I just don't think it mixes with, that it mixes with, and it's like, but she puts it on everything. And it's funny because she doesn't have a lot of problems with inflammation. Go figure. She's been doing that for years. All right. Beets are wonderful. Ginger and turmeric. And that's what I was talking about. I have these in essential oil form. I can probably get them in, I have the turmeric. This is actually newer. They just created this, but I have it in essential oil form. Also, frankincense is a nice anti-inflammatory essential oil that you can add to drinks or foods or things, or just rubbing it on your body. Okay. Obviously, you don't want to use a lot with the essential oils. We're doing an essential oil class next week, so if you have questions about that, hold it till next week. But ginger and turmeric is used in a lot of things. Ginger specifically is really good for the stomach. Does anybody eat sushi? I know you don't. You don't like fish. But sushi. So sushi. Do you ever notice they give you that little, color? Yeah. It's ginger. There's ginger on the side because it helps with stomach digestion. Okay, because it reduces inflammation if there's any. Garlic and onions and olive oil. Pretty simple. Berries. Fight inflammation. Low in fat and calories. High in antioxidants. Usually you want, things like blueberries, blackberries, those types of berries. Okay, and tart cherry juice. Tart cherry juice, yeah, it does. It has a really tart taste. It's really good for you, and it helps with inflammation. Okay, so these are just some of the things that you can do. And if you don't remember all of this stuff, that's okay. We have a handout that we've been giving to everybody this week that has a list of the stuff. Okay? But the biggest thing I always encourage people to do is stop before you sit down and eat, look what's on your plate, and say, what can I put on my plate for it to be healthier? Don't look at it and say, oh, that's unhealthy, and say, I got to remove that. Say to yourself, what can I put on my plate that's healthier? Because what happens is your taste buds start to change when you start introducing healthier foods into your diet. Okay? And then you don't want the other stuff as much. So if you go, like, when I go get a hamburger, I like a hamburger, I grew up on this stuff, although my blood type says I shouldn't eat this stuff, that I should be more vegetarian, and I've done that, and not going to happen again. Not going to happen again. But when I order a hamburger, rather than get French fries, I get a salad with it. Okay? Because I know that at least I can take away some of the inflammatory food and put something good into my diet. And what happens is it helps balance things out. So there's simple things that you can do. If you look at your plate and it has, you break it into 3 even pieces and it has meat, potatoes, meat, you're missing something. Or just meat, potatoes, you're missing something. Okay, tomatoes, yeah, tomatoes. Or a dark leafy green vegetable, something, no, come on. Okay. That's what my dad used to say. It was funny because I was vegetarian when I came home. I was actually vegan when I came home from chiropractic school, and he used to say, "What are you? You a cow?" Okay, and I said, and you know what? Cows eat grain. Cows eat other stuff. I mean, they eat other stuff too, especially nowadays. But the way they're farmed, okay. But the thing is, we're made to eat greens, okay. Because if you look at indigenous societies, they always ate nuts, greens, and meats. Okay, they didn't eat bread. They didn't eat like the paleo diets. They didn't eat that stuff. Okay, so the thing is that's newer for us because we create that stuff. But yeah, you go overseas and people, there's a lot of different things that you look at. But this is just a basis of starting. Okay, nutrition is at the bottom of the hierarchy of needs. Okay, for our body, because if you look at the hierarchy of needs, nourishment is the first one. Okay, physical nourishment, eating, things of that nature. It sort of builds a base. Okay, but you can go on, a hunger strike and live for 3 or 4 weeks without any nourishment. Your body will survive, right? Water is key. Every time you get adjusted, you should be drinking more water because water helps to flush out toxins. Okay, and if you have no water in your diet, and I'm not talking about coffee or all this other stuff, okay, within 3 to 4 days, you go out in the desert with no water, 3 to 4 days, you're done. Okay? Oxygen is obvious. You got to breathe. A lot of the inflammatory processes start with lack of oxygen. Anoxic or lack of oxygen in the joints or in the muscles can cause problems. So you need to do something active that's helping you breathe. And we need to learn how to breathe. Okay? Because most people don't breathe. We all breathe very shallow. Okay, so those are the things. And then nerve flow is the key. It's at the top or the pinnacle of this, because if there's no nerve flow, all of this stuff won't work. Because if there's no nerve flow, it's almost instantaneous. Things start to die almost instantaneously. You start getting muscle atrophy. You cut off the brainstem. It's instantaneous. Okay. You guys have to understand, I want the best for you. And if there's any questions or anything, or you want copies of anything, just initial that sheet on your way out, okay? And I get you copies of the PowerPoint. If you want that sheet of good stuff that's anti-inflammatory, we're handing it out. So when you come in, you can grab it. Okay? Thank you very much for coming tonight. I appreciate you all being here, and have a great night. Thank you.